What happens when aggression meets discipline? A lesson these bikers will never forget. It was a breezy Saturday evening at a small park on the edge of Fairfield, Connecticut, the kind of evening when families gathered, children played soccer, and teenagers sat on benches with earbuds in, scrolling through their phones. Seated alone under a towering oak tree was 16-year-old Michael. His younger brother Jordan was finishing up soccer practice, and Michael had promised their mother that he would wait to walk Jordan home. Michael was dressed impeccably in a fitted black suit, a crisp white shirt, and polished black shoes. He kept to himself as he casually flipped through a book he had brought along. He did not even look up when the deep rumble of motorcycles shattered the gentle hum of the park. Usually that sound meant nothing more than a group of bikers passing by, their engines roaring louder than necessary in an otherwise quiet space. But tonight, something was different. The bikers did not simply ride through. Instead, they rolled in slowly, parking their bikes near the soccer field. 5 of them, clad in leather jackets and dark jeans, immediately caught the eye against the backdrop of families enjoying their evening. There was no laughter, no casual chatter among the bikers. They scanned the park with a focused intensity, their eyes locking onto Michael as though he were a target. Michael noticed them too. He glanced up briefly, catching the severity in their stares. Although he was not one to jump to conclusions, the way they looked at him tightened his stomach slightly. Determined to maintain his composure, he turned back to his book, forcing himself to stay calm. But calm is hard to keep when you feel watched. It wasn't long before the bikers abandoned their bikes. One of them, a burly man with a shaved head, nudged a friend and began walking toward Michael. That was when the situation began to shift. Michael felt the heavy footsteps of the man before he could see him clearly. He glanced up again, only to find the burly biker now flanked by 2 others. Their expressions were unreadable, yet their intent was clear as they moved purposefully. Their leather boots crunched on the gravel pathway as they closed the distance. Michael's heart thudded in his chest, but his face remained an impassive mask. His mother had always told him, "Never let them see you sweat." He thought of her steady voice as he dog-eared the page in his book and set it aside. "What are you doing here, kid?" the burly man demanded in a gruff, direct tone. Michael hesitated, his eyebrows knitting in confusion for a moment before replying simply, "I'm waiting for my brother." His tone was polite yet firm. The man smirked and exchanged a glance with his friends. "This doesn't look like your kind of place," he said, his words laced with something unspoken and pointed. Michael's jaw tightened, but he forced himself to remain composed. "It's a public park," Michael answered steadily, meeting the man's gaze. For an instant, the biker's smirk faded, and he remarked, "Got a smart mouth, huh?" as he stepped closer. The other 2 bikers spread out slightly, forming a semicircle around Michael. Meanwhile, parents and children remained scattered around the park, seemingly oblivious to the tension building under the oak tree. Michael scanned the area briefly, hoping someone would notice what was happening, but the bikers had clearly chosen their moment carefully. Most of the attention was focused on the soccer field, where Jordan's game was wrapping up. Michael's mind raced. He wasn't scared, not yet, but the situation was clearly turning and he could feel it. Years of karate training had taught him to observe, to anticipate, and to react, yet he also knew that fighting was not the first option. "Don't touch him," Michael said in a measured tone. "I don't want any trouble. I'm just here for my brother." But the burly man did not back off. Instead, he leaned down slightly, his face coming too close for comfort. "Trouble? Who said anything about trouble?" the man taunted in a low, sneering voice. Michael could feel the weight of their stares, the unspoken challenge in their posture. His hands rested loosely on his knees, ready to react if necessary, and then something about the man's next words made it clear they weren't going to let him off that easily. "Maybe you should show us what you've got," the biker sneered, and his friends laughed quietly behind him. Michael did not move. He did not flinch. His hands stayed where they were, resting calmly on his knees, yet his eyes remained locked on the man in front of him. Years of practice had taught him how to read people. Their posture, their movements, even the rhythm of their breathing could reveal their intentions. And these men were not here to talk. The burly man, clearly expecting Michael to fold under the pressure, leaned even closer, his shadow falling over Michael. "What's the matter, kid? You scared?" the man taunted. Michael exhaled slowly, not answering immediately. He did not need to show fear. After all, his problem was not fear. It was time. Time until Jordan's game ended. Time until someone in the park noticed what was happening and came to his aid. Just then, a sudden voice broke through the tense atmosphere. Michael turned his head slightly to see a young boy, no older than 10, standing a few yards away. It was Jordan. His little brother had wandered off the field, his forehead still glistening with sweat from the game. "Jordan, stay back," Michael called out in a firm voice. But the bikers turned toward the boy with grins that resembled those of predators spotting an easier target. "Is this your brother?" one of them asked, pointing a gloved finger at Jordan. "Maybe we should teach you both a lesson." Michael felt his pulse quicken, not with fear, but with a deep, resolute determination. Slowly, deliberately, he rose to his feet. His movements were purposeful, his eyes never leaving the threatening circle of bikers. He shifted his weight slightly, planting his feet into a stance he had practiced countless times in the dojo. "Don't touch him," Michael said, his voice calm but edged with steel. The burly man laughed, shaking his head. "Look at this guy. He thinks he's tough," he jeered, and the others joined in their laughter, echoing across the park. But Michael did not waver. His expression remained unchanged, his stance unyielding. His silence unnerved them even more than any words might have. "You're not going to do anything," one of the bikers remarked, stepping even closer. It was then that Michael finally spoke in a low, deliberate tone. "You don't want to do this," he warned. For a moment the laughter stopped. The bikers glanced at one another, seemingly confused by the confidence in Michael's tone. Yet the moment did not last long. The burly man took another step forward and raised a hand to shove Michael. What happened next was so fast, so unexpected that even the bikers were caught off guard. But Michael was ready. The burly man's hand shot forward to push Michael's shoulder, but before it could connect, Michael shifted to the side with the precision of a coiled spring. His body moved in one fluid motion as he stepped forward and struck the man's wrist with an open palm, twisting it away. The biker grunted in pain, his hand dropping to his side as he stepped back, glaring at Michael with fury in his eyes. "What?" the man started, but before he could finish his sentence, Michael interjected. "I warned you." His voice was calm yet firm, carrying over the murmurs of the growing crowd. The two other bikers, undeterred by the warning, rushed forward. One swung a wild punch, but Michael ducked with smooth, deliberate motion. In a well-executed counter, he delivered a sharp kick to the man's knee, sending him crumpling to the ground with a cry of pain. The second biker hesitated just long enough for Michael to pivot on his heel and deliver a spinning kick to the side of his ribs. The force of the blow knocked the wind out of him. He staggered backwards, clutching his side. By now, the burly leader had recovered, and his face red with anger lunged at Michael, swinging both fists like a brawler. Yet Michael refused to meet brute force with brute force. He stayed light on his feet, dodging the punches with the agility honed over years of training. As the confrontation escalated, a crowd began to gather at the edge of the park. Parents, children, even some soccer players who had paused their game to witness the unfolding drama. Someone had already pulled out a phone, and the lens began capturing every second of the spectacle. The leader charged again, this time trying to grab Michael by the lapel of his suit jacket, but Michael moved faster, twisting out of the grip and delivering a precise strike to the man's solar plexus. The biker stumbled backward, gasping for air as his tough exterior cracked under Michael's calm, controlled assault. "Enough! Enough!" Michael's voice rang out loudly enough to echo across the park. His stance remained strong, and though his expression was devoid of malice, it showed unwavering resolve. "I don't want to hurt you. Walk away for a moment." For a brief instant, it seemed the bikers might listen. The leader, wheezing and clutching his chest, glared at Michael while the two others, one still on the ground clutching his knee and the other holding his ribs, looked on in pain. The tension in the air was palpable, but Michael did not flinch. "Let's go," he said firmly. The leader finally growled, waving his friends to follow, and they limped back to their bikes, muttering curses under their breath as their engines roared to life. Yet, as they began to pull away, the leader turned back and pointed a finger at Michael. "This ain't over, kid," he spat, before roaring off with his crew. Michael did not respond. He stood there, his breathing steady, as the sound of the engines faded into the distance. Gradually, the crowd's murmurs turned into applause. Parents and onlookers expressed admiration and disbelief at what they had witnessed. Jordan, eyes wide with both fear and awe, ran up to his older brother. "Michael, are you okay?" he asked, his voice trembling. Michael knelt down and placed a gentle hand on Jordan's shoulder. "I'm fine," he replied with a small, reassuring smile. "Let's go home." As they walked away together, Michael couldn't shake the lingering feeling that this wasn't the end of the story. Not yet. The silence between them as they strolled home was punctuated only by the soft tapping of their sneakers against the sidewalk. Jordan kept sneaking glances at Michael, his expression a blend of awe and worry. Eventually, unable to contain his curiosity any longer, Jordan whispered, "Michael, how did you do all that? I mean, they were huge, and there were 3 of them." Michael chuckled softly and shook his head. "It's not about being bigger, Jordan," he explained gently. "It's about being prepared, staying calm, and knowing when to act." And Jordan frowned for a moment, then asked quietly, "But what if they come back?" Michael stopped walking, turning to face his little brother with a serious tone. "If they do, we'll handle it," he said, his voice firm. "What happened today wasn't about fighting. It was about standing up for myself and for you. Remember, violence is never the answer unless it's the only option." Jordan nodded slowly, processing every word, as Michael placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Always know your worth," Michael continued. "True strength isn't about how big you are or how hard you can hit. It's about knowing your value and refusing to let anyone take that away from you." When they reached home, their mother was waiting on the porch, arms crossed and a look of concern etched on her face. "You're late," she said softly, her voice tinged with worry. Michael hesitated and glanced at Jordan, who remained quiet. Finally, Michael admitted, "Something happened at the park." He chose his words carefully, not wanting to worry her more than necessary, yet believing in the importance of honesty. As he recounted the events, their mother's expression shifted from fear to pride. "Michael," she said, her voice warm with emotion, "I'm proud of you for protecting your brother and yourself, but promise me one thing. Never take risks like that unless you have no other choice." Michael nodded solemnly. "I promise," he replied, meaning every word. That night, as Michael lay in bed replaying the evening's events in his mind, he thought about the bikers' aggression, the crowd's reaction, and the lingering echo of the leader's taunting words, "This ain't over, kid." Yet Michael wasn't afraid. He had learned long ago that fear only had power if you let it. Instead, he felt a quiet sense of purpose. The world might not always be fair, but moments like these proved that courage and discipline could make all the difference. Deep down, he knew that this experience wasn't just a test of his physical skills. It was a reminder that standing up against wrong, no matter how daunting, was always worth it. Michael's story became a powerful example of resilience, preparation, and the importance of knowing when to take a stand. His calm confidence in the face of aggression taught everyone who witnessed it that true strength isn't measured by size or by brute force, but by the ability to recognize one's own worth and act with integrity. As the evening drew to a close, Michael's mind wandered to the lessons he had learned. He realized that standing up for oneself was not about proving how tough you were to others, but about safeguarding your inner worth and protecting those you love. Later, as Michael and Jordan walked home in silence, the memory of the confrontation lingered like a persistent echo. The footsteps on the pavement, the rustling of leaves in the cool night air, and the distant hum of returning engines all served as reminders of the evening's events. Michael's thoughts turned inward, reflecting on the importance of discipline, self-control, and the necessity of being prepared, not just physically but mentally as well. He recalled his karate training and the wisdom imparted by his mother, that true strength comes not from physical might but from an unwavering sense of self-worth and the discipline to control one's emotions. The encounter at the park was more than a physical skirmish. It was a moment of personal growth, a turning point that underscored the power of calm in the face of danger. Michael recognized that although the bikers had intended to intimidate him, their aggression ultimately had the opposite effect. Their attempt to unsettle him only reinforced his determination to stand firm, to protect his little brother, and to honor the lessons he had been taught. In that moment, Michael felt a surge of pride and responsibility. He understood that while the world could be harsh and unfair, he possessed the inner strength to navigate its challenges with dignity. By the time Michael and Jordan reached their home, the events of the evening had etched themselves into Michael's memory. His mother's concern had given way to a deep-seated pride in her son's maturity and self-restraint. The conversation on the porch, though brief, was laden with unspoken promises and assurances, a mutual understanding that while life might bring threats and challenges, their bond would always provide the strength to face them. That night, lying in the quiet darkness of his room, Michael replayed every detail of the confrontation in his mind. He reflected on the intense stares of the bikers, the palpable tension that had filled the park, and the adrenaline that had surged through his veins as he defended himself and his brother. Yet, amid the chaos, he found a profound sense of calm, a realization that his training, both in martial arts and in life, had prepared him for moments just like this. In the quiet solitude of his room, Michael also pondered the deeper meaning of what had transpired. It wasn't merely about the physical altercation, it was about the principle of standing up for what was right, even when faced with overwhelming odds. He recalled his mother's gentle yet firm admonition, "Never let them see you sweat," and understood that her advice was not about suppressing fear, but about channeling it into disciplined action. Mind was clear. He was not going to let aggression dictate the course of his life. Instead, he would let discipline and integrity be his guide. As dawn approached and Michael finally drifted into a restless sleep, the lessons of the previous evening continued to resonate. The memory of the bikers' mocking laughter, the pain of the strikes exchanged, and the final defiant words of the leader all blended into a singular, lasting impression. Michael knew that this was not the end of his journey. There would be other challenges, other moments of confrontation, but he was determined to face them with the same calm resolve and steadfast discipline. In the days that followed, Michael's story began to spread among his peers, and even reached some of the adults in the community. Whispers of his quiet bravery and the way he had handled himself in the park became a point of discussion. Parents marveled at the maturity of the young man who had stood up to a group of hardened bikers without resorting to unnecessary violence. His example reminded everyone that sometimes the most powerful form of resistance is not physical aggression, but the unyielding strength of one's inner character. For Michael, the incident served as a turning point. It reinforced the values that he had learned over the years, values that would guide him throughout his life. He became more determined than ever to cultivate discipline, not just in physical combat but in every aspect of his life. His training in karate, once just a means of self-defense, had become a way of life. A philosophy that taught him the importance of observation, anticipation, and measured response. Michael's experience that breezy Saturday evening in Fairfield, Connecticut, thus transformed into a powerful narrative of resilience. It was a story of how a young man, armed with discipline and inner strength, faced down aggression and emerged not as a victim, but as a guardian of his own dignity and that of his loved ones. The memory of the confrontation, with its flashes of violence and moments of calm defiance, would remain with him forever, a constant reminder that true courage is measured not by the ability to inflict pain, but by the capacity to remain calm and composed in the face of adversity. As time passed, Michael often found himself reflecting on that night. In quiet moments, when he was alone with his thoughts, he would recall the intensity of the stares, the sound of the bikers' engines, and the adrenaline that had surged through him as he took each deliberate, controlled action. He would remember how his heart had pounded in his chest, and yet how his mind had remained as clear as ever. This recollection served as a beacon of hope and a reminder of what it meant to truly stand up for oneself. Michael began to share his story with others, not to boast, but to inspire. He spoke about the importance of preparedness, of training both the body and the mind to handle unexpected challenges. He explained that while physical strength was valuable, it was the discipline to control one's emotions that truly made a person formidable. His words resonated with many, particularly those who had faced their own moments of fear and aggression. They learned from his example that true power lies in the ability to choose calm over chaos and to let integrity guide one's actions, even in the most trying circumstances. In community gatherings and quiet conversations, Michael's experience became a symbol of what it means to have inner strength. People began to see that the real measure of a person's character was not in the physical blows they could deliver, but in the courage to maintain composure when under attack. His story was passed along from friend to friend, a modern parable of discipline triumphing over brute force. Years later, as Michael matured into adulthood, he would often revisit that pivotal evening in his mind. It served as a constant reminder of the values that had defined him and set him on the path to becoming a man of honor and integrity. The memory of those aggressive bikers, the way they had tried to break his spirit, and the way he had responded with measured, decisive action remained a testament to the power of discipline over raw aggression. Michael's journey was not without further challenges, but he carried with him the lessons learned that day. He understood that life would always present moments of confrontation, moments when aggression would be met with the need for calm, measured response. And he knew that as long as he remembered that true strength lay in knowing one's worth and standing by it, he would always be able to rise above the fray. In the end, Michael's story became more than just an account of a single altercation in a park. It evolved into a broader narrative about the triumph of discipline, the importance of preparedness, and the enduring power of integrity. It reminded everyone who heard it that while the world might be filled with aggression and chaos, there is always hope in the calm, quiet strength of a person who knows their worth and stands up for what is right. So, if you ever find yourself in a difficult situation, if aggression comes your way or if you see someone in need of help, remember Michael's example. Remember that courage is not the absence of fear, but the determination to do the right thing, even when fear is present. Stand tall, remain calm, and let your actions speak for the strength of your character. For it is in these moments that true resilience is forged, and the quietest voices often have the strongest impact. Michael's journey didn't end on that fateful evening. It marked the beginning of a lifelong commitment to turning adversity into an opportunity for growth and healing. In the days that followed, the park itself seemed transformed, its quiet corners now resonating with whispers of courage and hope. Neighbors and passers-by discussed Michael's calm defiance with a mix of admiration and astonishment, and the incident soon became a local legend, a modern parable of how discipline and inner strength can defy even the most aggressive challenges. In the weeks after the confrontation, Michael found himself reflecting deeply on the events that had unfolded. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw not the harsh expressions of the bikers, but the unwavering light of his own resolve. His karate training, once merely a physical practice, now took on a profound, almost spiritual dimension. It had taught him that the real battle was not against external foes, but against the internal forces of fear and doubt. With each passing day, Michael became more attuned to the quiet strength within him, a reservoir of calm that he could draw upon whenever life threatened to overwhelm him. This newfound clarity compelled Michael to share his experiences with others. At community centers and local school assemblies, he spoke about that breezy Saturday and the powerful lesson he had learned, that true strength is measured by one's ability to remain calm in the face of danger. He explained that while physical skills are important, the ability to control one's emotions, especially in moments of crisis, is what truly defines a person's character. His words resonated deeply with many, sparking discussions about conflict resolution, self-discipline, and the value of non-violent resistance in a world that often rewards aggression. Michael's influence soon began to ripple outward. Inspired by his story, a group of local teenagers started a mentorship initiative aimed at teaching self-defense, mindfulness, and conflict management. They organized workshops and training sessions where Michael, along with other community leaders, demonstrated how to turn feelings of anger into controlled, purposeful energy. These sessions not only provided practical skills, but also fostered a sense of community and mutual support among the youth. Parents noticed a subtle but significant shift in their children's attitudes. Where once there had been resignation and timidity, there now blossomed a spark of confidence and determination. As Michael matured into adulthood, he never forgot that defining day. The lessons he had learned under the old oak tree, lessons of courage, discipline, and the importance of protecting one's dignity, guided him through every subsequent challenge. Whether he faced academic setbacks, personal losses, or further encounters with aggression, Michael always returned to the principle that had saved him that evening. That inner strength, when coupled with preparedness and self-respect, is a force more potent than brute force. Years later, Michael founded a community center dedicated to youth empowerment and conflict resolution. Within its welcoming walls, young people learned that standing up for oneself did not require violence, but a calm, measured response to life's inevitable challenges. The center became a safe haven where individuals could discuss their struggles, learn practical self-defense techniques, and cultivate mindfulness practices that nurtured emotional resilience. Michael's philosophy, rooted in his own experiences, taught everyone that true courage comes from understanding your own worth and acting in accordance with that truth, even when faced with overwhelming odds. One crisp autumn day, as Michael walked through the park where it had all begun, he encountered a small group of teenagers huddled together, their eyes downcast and voices barely above a whisper. Recognizing the same uncertainty he had once felt, Michael approached them gently. He sat on a nearby bench and shared his story once more, this time in a quiet, reflective tone. "I was scared too," he said softly, "but I learned that fear loses its power when you face it with calm and determination." His words, imbued with both humility and quiet strength, lifted the spirits of those young hearts, leaving them with the enduring message that every act of bravery, no matter how small, can light the way toward a better future. In that moment, as golden leaves danced around them in the soft breeze, Michael realized that his legacy was not just defined by one confrontation in a park, but by the countless lives he had touched thereafter. His journey had become a testament to the transformative power of discipline and the quiet determination to do what is right, even when the odds are stacked against you. The park, the oak tree, and even the echo of distant motorcycle engines had all become symbols of a night that reshaped not only one life, but an entire community. And so, whenever darkness crept into the hearts of those who felt small or powerless, Michael's story was there to remind them. True courage is not the absence of fear, but the strength to act with integrity in spite of it. His life's work, built on the foundation of that pivotal evening, continued to inspire new generations to stand up for themselves and for others. For in every moment of quiet defiance against aggression, there lies the promise of a brighter, more compassionate world. A world where every challenge is met not with reckless violence, but with the calm, resolute spirit of someone who truly knows their worth.